Good morning, everyone. In this class, we are going to study about the instrumentation of UV visible spectroscopy. When we say instrumentation, we have to see what are the major components present in the instrument and what are the function of each component present in that instrument. Here, as I said in the last class, that spectroscopy, we have to make use of some kind of light. That we don't use the word light, rather we use the word electromagnetic radiation. The electromagnetic radiation, it is nothing but a light. So that is from the source. A source, this is a typical diagram of a UV visible spectrophotometer, wherein there will be a source from where the light will emerge. The light emerge will pass through the entrance slit. Slit is the one which monitors the direction of the light. Once the light pass through the slit, it will be going to the prism. The function of prism is to disperse the light in from one color, that is white light, into 7 different colors. That is what we call it as Vibgaya. Here each color represents different wavelength. Once the white light is converted into 7 lights, then it will be passing through the exit slit. So the entrance slit, the dispersing device prism, and the exit slit together, what we call it as monochromator. And from the exit slit, you can see that among 7 colors, only one color will be passing through the solution that we have taken in the cuvette, or we call it as the sample holder. After the sample is absorbed, the remaining light is transmitted, and that will be absorbed or detected using the detector, which is followed by amplifier and recorder. Usually, the UV visible spectrophotometers that we are going to use, we call it as double focusing or double beam spectrophotometer. Why do we say it is double beam? We will see here. This is the typical schematic of the UV visible double beam spectrophotometer, wherein we will be using the source. The source can be either from the tungsten lamp or the hydrogen deuterium lamp. So this is from where the light, and it will be hitting the grating. Once it hits the grating, why we have to make use of grating? In order to produce the narrow light. From there, we have to focus that to the selector mirror. So the mirror, this reflects the light into 2 beams. The first beam will pass through the sample solution. The second beam will be passed through the reference solution, and the both will be again going to the rotating mirror, and these two will converge together and will pass through the detector, then followed by amplifier and recorder. This is the schematic of double focusing or double beam spectrophotometer. We will see each one of the components in detail. Light source, as I said, we can use either tungsten filament lamps or hydrogen deuterium lamps, because these 2 lamps will cover the whole UV region, that is 200 to 400 nanometer. Tungsten filament lamps, the tungsten filament lamps, they are rich in red radiations, more specifically because they emit 375 nanometer, that is towards the higher wavelength, while the intensity of the hydrogen deuterium lamp, it falls below 375 nanometer, that is quite less compared to the tungsten filament lamp. Once the light is emitted from the source, it will be going to the monochromator. We know that in monochromator there will be 3 regions. The first one is entrance slit, next is the prism, the third one is the exit slit. So usually for monochromator we use prisms and slits, and most of the spectrophotometers that we use in our laboratory are double beam spectrophotometers, as I said a quite while ago. The radiation emitted from the primary source is dispersed with the help of the rotating prisms. The various wavelengths of the light source, which are separated by the prism, are then selected by the slits. The function of the slits is to or to navigate the direction of light in a particular path length, such that the rotation of the prism, it results in a series of continuously increasing wavelength to pass through the slits for recording purpose. The beam selected by the slit is monochromatic. That means the light will have a single wavelength, and further this monochromatic wavelength is divided into 2 beams with the help of another prism. Why we have to split this into 2 beams? Because we are going to use double focusing or double beam spectrophotometers. Once the sample comes out of the exit slit, you will be having only a single wavelength monochromatic light, and that will be now entering the sample cells and the reference cells. As I showed you in the schematic, we have got two beams. One beam will be passing through the sample cell and the other beam will be passing through the reference cell. Both will be taking place simultaneously. And both the sample and reference solutions, they both are contained in a single cell. Usually the cells are made up of either silica or quartz. We cannot use glass cuvettes because glass will absorb some UV radiations. That is the reason why we use mainly the cells or cuvettes made out of silica or quartz, and they are very expensive when compared to glass cuvettes. Now you have taken sample solution in the reference cell and the sample cell. In sample cell, you will take the sample of interest, whereas in the reference cell, you will take a standard. And usually, once the sample and the reference cell absorb certain amount of light, the remaining light will be transmitted from those cells. So those cells which transmit the light, they have to be detected by using an instrument within the instrument that is called as detector. Generally, two photocells serve the purpose of detector in UV spectroscopy. One of the photocell receives the beam from the sample cell and the second detector receives the beam from the reference cell. Because we are using two beams and one sample cell and one reference cell, so two photocell will be employed in the detector. The intensity that comes from the reference cell is always very, very strong when compared to the beam which is coming from the sample cell. That means there will be a generation of pulsating or alternating currents in the photocells. Once it will be from the sample cell, one from the reference cell. Sample, reference, sample, reference, sample, reference. That means there will be an alternating pulsating currents in the photocells because we are using two cells. Once the beam it exits from the detector, they have to be amplified. So what we do in amplification is we amplify the signals many number of times. Why we do so? Because we have to get clear and recordable signals. Only once if we get the signals, it will be of very, very low intensity. We cannot identify anything by that low intensity signals, but when we do lot of amplifications, we will get very clear and those signals can be easily recorded. So the alternating current which is generated by two photocells, one from the sample cell, another from this reference cell, is transferred to the amplifier. This amplifier is coupled to a small servo meter. Usually the current generated is of very, very low intensity, and that's why we have to do the amplification as many number of times as possible so that we get a clear and recordable signals. Once it is amplified, they will be stored or recorded in the form of graphs. We don't call it as graph, but in spectroscopy we call it as spectrum or spectra, and they will be recorded in the computer. Usually computer stores all the data generated and produces the spectrum of the desired compound. This is about the instrumentation of UV visible spectrophotometer in general, but in particular double beam spectrophotometer. The last aspect that is involved in UV visible spectroscopy is applications. So whatever the technique we do, there should be some applications for that. Here UV visible spectroscopy has got n number of applications. We will see one by one. The first one is the detection of impurities. See, whenever we do any preparation or synthesis, our compound should be very, very pure. If there is any impurity, it loses the property of that particular molecule. In order to identify whether impurity is generated or not, we can clearly use UV visible spectroscopy. See here, this is the UV spectra of paracetamol. This is the standard paracetamol, and this is the signal or spectrum that we get. So when some impurity is added to paracetamol, you will see that extra peaks are observed in this region. So the presence of extra peaks, it indicates that the sample is contaminated or it has got some impurity. So this is one of the best methods for the determination of impurities in organic molecules. Next, whatever the additional peaks that are observed due to impurities in the sample, and that can be compared to that of the starting material. By also measuring the absorbance at specific wavelength, the impurities can be detected. Say for example, this paracetamol is having lambda max around 320 nanometer. I fix only 320 nanometer in the instrument and I should see only one peak. If there is any other peak other than 320 nanometer, then I can clearly say that yes, the sample is having some impurity or it is contaminated and it is unfit for use. That is the first application of UV visible spectroscopy. The second important application is it is highly helpful for the structural elucidation of organic compounds. Say, for example, the scientists may isolate some compound from the nature and they do not know the structure of the compound. This UV visible spectroscopy, as I said in the last class, it is highly helpful in order to know whether unsaturations or some heteroatoms are present in the molecule. Presence of unsaturations or aromatic system can be easily identified by looking or by measuring the lambda max of the unknown sample. So if there is any good peak that is appearing, then we can say that the compound is having some aromatic compound or unsaturated system. So that can be easily done by using UV visible spectroscopy. The main application of this UV visible spectroscopy is that it is used in the quantitative determination of compounds. How we can do that? Imagine this is the UV visible spectrum obtained by plotting concentration on x-axis and absorbance on y-axis. We have got two standards and we have plotted the calibration curve by making series of solutions. So we have got standard 1, 2, 3 and 4, and say for example you have an unknown concentration and then you take the lambda max of that also and then you plot and intersect this. So whatever the concentration you are going to get, based on that you can identify, yes, what is the or how much of the quantity of the sample present in the unknown substance. That can be easily found out by using the Beer's law. Here we can see that the calibration should curve pass through the origin because that is one of the conditions of Beer's law. Fourth one, this is highly helpful in the qualitative determination also. Not only UV visible spectroscopy is useful for quantitative determination, but also for qualitative determination of organic compounds. This can be done by measuring the sample as well as the standard. See, this is the UV spectrum of ibuprofen. Here we have run 3 samples, A, B, and C. All the 3 peaks are matching. All the 3 compounds are matching, and I can say that my sample is exactly matching with that of the standard. That's why I can say that my compound is definitely ibuprofen and it does not have any other impurity or no any other compound will show, because each compound will have a characteristic UV peaks. That is what we are going to have it here. That's why UV visible spectroscopy finds n number of applications, especially in quantitative as well as qualitative determination of organic compounds. The fifth one is it is highly helpful to detect the presence or absence of functional groups present in the compound. Say for example, this is the UV spectrum of benzene. This is the UV spectrum of toluene. You know that benzene is a 6-membered unsaturated system and toluene is benzene ring with CH3. So here in benzene, we do not have any CH3. That's why you're having only one peak around 179 or 178 or 180 nanometer. Whereas in toluene, because of the presence of CH3, you will be seeing another peak at around 268 or 267 nanometer. So additional peak, it refers to that there is some other functional group present in the molecule. So absence of a band or a presence of a band at a particular wavelength regarded as an evidence for the absence or presence of a particular group. If you have converted benzene to toluene, in benzene you should get only one peak, whereas in toluene we are going to get 2 peaks, one for methyl, another one for benzene, and also the absorption is shifted from 180 nanometer to 270 nanometer. So that clearly is helping us to know whether the compound has got some functional group or not. So UV visible spectroscopy is very useful for monitoring the course of the reaction. That is what we talk about, the kinetics of the reaction. Even the fast reaction or the slow reaction, whether the product is taking place or not from time to time, that also we can check. Every 5 minutes, you take the sample and read. You take the sample and take the reading. You take the sample and read the reading. So if there is any change in the reading, from the starting material to the product, then you can clearly say that the reaction is completed. So how we can do that? The UV radiation is passed through the reaction cell, and the absorbance changes can be clearly observed by the appearance or the disappearance of peaks in the UV visible spectrum. And this UV visible spectroscopy is also highly helpful for us in the formulation studies. So you know that many drugs are either in the form of raw material or in the form of formulation. So raw material is nothing but API, that is active pharmaceutical ingredient. To that we mix various things and we formulate that, that is known as formulation. That is what is available in the drug stores or medical stores. They can be easily assayed by making a suitable solution of the drug in a solvent and measuring the absorbance at specific wavelength. So if there is any change in the P from raw material to the formulated one, then we can easily identify whether we have got the raw material drug or the formulated drug just by the presence or absence of the peaks in the UV spectrum. Not only UV visible spectroscopy is helpful for this, but also it is used for the establishment or determination of molecular weights of the compounds by preparing the suitable derivatives of these compounds. Say for example, you have got benzene. If you want to identify whether you have got benzene or not, you want to establish the molecular weight of benzene, then you convert benzene into some other derivative and check out the UV visible spectrum. If there is any change in the UV pattern, then you can check by using the formula whether the compound has obtained or not by measuring the or by determining the molecular weight of the sample. The last one is this UV visible spectrophotometer is used as detector in the HPLC or UPLC. HPLC is high pressure or high performance liquid chromatography. UPLC is ultra performance liquid chromatography. These are the instruments, sophisticated instruments that are routinely used in the research laboratories and many industries, because these will help to know whether the prepared compound has got any impurity, whether it has got particular wavelength or not. All those things can be easily measured by making use of HPLC or UPLC. These are some of the applications of UV visible spectroscopy. So this ends UV visible spectroscopy. We have studied principle, instrumentation and applications. In the next class, we will see the next spectroscopic technique, that is NMR. Yes, photograph.